What do you got for me today?
You got a number going up tomorrow.
Yeah. It should be a really fun day. I talked to the players about it, and it's not often that you get to be a part of something like this. So I know I'm excited about it, and hopefully they are as well. And so it's, I think, our third one. Yeah. So, yeah.
Obviously, the criteria for that, to be in the Hall of Fame, to be inducted.
I know.
Maya coming soon too. But what do you see is the most common thread between Rebecca, Swin, and now Sue, and obviously Maya?
It's probably not fair that that's the criteria. It is kind of a ridiculous criteria to have, but I think it also represents how in a list of some incredible people, how unique some really were for a lot of different reasons, obviously. And the common thread, if you look at those three, Rebecca, Swin, and Sue up to this point, and then, obviously Maya coming up next, is obviously the basketball talent. Obviously you have to have that, which they did. The impact they had on their teams while they were here, singularly, how synonymous with their team they became. And the amazing thing about these three and Maya, the fourth, was the incredible amount of success they had after they left here. That as great as their accomplishments were here, as incredible as their achievements were here, what they've done since they left has been nothing short of, incredible. And so you want to know the thread, I think, is that.
Is there any moment with Sue that you think back to when she was here that really kind of reflects her?
So many. Everybody remembers, the shot against Notre Dame to win the Big East tournament. But for me, there were moments, the day she got hurt, let's say, and a simple thing that she probably did a million times. And at that time, we were the number one team in the country and far and away the best team in the country. And then the minute that we had to play without her, we became a good team, but we stopped becoming a great team. So that was number one. Two, her senior year, if you've never watched it, if you go on YouTube or wherever you might find it, and you watch the first half of the Old Dominion game in the regionals in Milwaukee, you'll see a half of basketball that's never been played before or since. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. That would probably be the things that I, remember the most.
Feels like the thing everybody talks about with Sue is her leadership and just kind of that being such a key part of her impact. How do you feel like she kind of shaped the culture of the program, just kind of what it became in those years?
We've been blessed with some of the all-time greats at point guards, our first national championship, Jen was National Player of the Year, So that's a huge bar, when you come in. And Sue equaled it in her own way. I think the fact that there was a lot more attention, obviously, in 2000, 2001, and 2 than there was in 95. But I think the things that Sue did, one, because of the team she played on, very similar to Jennifer, both on incredible teams that had incredible runs. And I think the attention that that you have to, the attention that you get because you're the leader of such a great group, I think it makes it even more special because you were directing special players. So not everybody can do that, and very rarely is someone identified by on the court excellence as a player, but the intangible part as a leader, and her leadership was on and off the court. And I think more than anything, there was this level of trust that the coaches had, that the other players had, and it never wavered. It wasn't. Like you ask kids today, or you ask people today, hey, so and so, is she trustworthy? Well, most times, sometimes. Well, if it's sometimes, then she's not. But there was never a sometime. It was all the time. So that's, and again, that carried over to WNBA, the U.S. Olympic team, just legendary, one of one. How many, well, we've had a couple one-of-ones, but they don't come along very often, and she was certainly one of them.
Like, a lot of them talk about watching her, even though she was playing, a lot before most of them
Yeah.
can remember.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, we had those tremendous teams, and yet, the uniforms that we wear sometimes on those throwback uniforms, they go, which uniforms are we wearing? Well, we're wearing the Sue Bird uniforms. She wasn't the only player that played on those teams, but that's how it became synonymous. So today's players maybe caught the last bit of her career, and her legend, I think, lives even in these young players. And I think her activities off the court, I think, are also a big part of it. But I hope the young players do take the time to go and watch some of the games that she played and the way she played. They could learn a lot from that.
What do you remember about recruiting her the first time you met her or talked to her?
I remember watching, CD and I think, were at a game during the summer, and I remember, again, she played on a really good team. She was really well coached. The coaches at Christ the King were her AAU coaches, and they did a fantastic job of, at practice, and they were really well organized. So when you watched them play, you could appreciate the way they played. And she played with so much flair, She was quick as all hell, and just seemed to have tremendous control, even back then at that age. Obviously, during recruiting, you talk on the phone, and like any other recruit. But it was interesting that when she came here to watch a game with her high school team, and we talked in the office afterwards for a couple minutes, and I was struck by how nervous she was. Today it's not like that anymore, But back then, obviously, UConn wasn't what UConn is today. So we're more as coaches like, yeah, we really want to get her, And meanwhile, she's like incredibly nervous and jittery about being in that environment and being made a fuss over like that, So I remember that, and even to this day, I'll tell her, I said, you were just overwhelmed because you wanted to come to Connecticut so bad that you were nervous about it, and she says that's not true. I was being recruited, and this was just one of the places that I was looking at, which is kind of a lie.
She's gotten a little bit better at handling fuss over her in the years since.
I think so. I think she's gotten used to the attention more so than ever. Yeah, I think so.
Kind of on that note, it's just been like the summer of Sue, right? She had her statue.
Oh.
She had the Women's Hall of Fame, Naismith, and now this. Just what's it been like to see her get her flowers from, like Emily said, all these different generations?
Some people maybe stay a little too long in what they're doing. You know, some people know when it's time. You know, the smart people know when it's time. And I think she stayed just long enough, and she knew when it was time, and she had an incredible ride even to the very end. You know, winning a gold medal in the Olympics her last time. And I think it was just a matter of time. I think, too, everybody knew this was inevitable. And everybody knew that the Hall of Fame was inevitable. I don't think anybody says, hey, they're going to have a statue of me in front of where I played. You know, I don't think anybody thinks that. But I do think there's still some of that nervousness because she obsessed over her Hall of Fame speech, you know, and then wanted to know, you know, do you think it was too long? Do you think it was like, you're superb. You can say whatever the hell you want, and people will say that's a great speech, you know. So I think there's obviously a lot that's come her way, but in the end, there's still a lot of, you know, who she was, and I think that's kind of the way everyone sees her too. You know, I don't know. I mean, there are some players that play here, and you know that where they're going next, they're going to be really, really, really good, and you can't think of like anything other than that. So much has to go into being a Hall of Famer. You know, do you have to be on the right team? Do you have to stay healthy? Do you have to play X number of seasons? Do you have to put up, you know, incredible stats? And you have to win championships. And so all those are like unknowns. But I would say, you know, her last 10 years in the league, that was kind of inevitable, I would say.
You had some special guests with you this week at practice, and Aaliyah and Paige.
Oh, I don't think there's anything special. But I mean, it was great to see Aaliyah. You know, it was great to see Aaliyah because we haven't seen her in a while, and she like looks fantastic. I mean, she's great. It's great to have her here. The other one is just having Dennis the Menace back on campus, and you know, she. You know what's funny is there's just a different vibe, you know. Even today, you know, it's just a different vibe when they're there. It's great to reminisce about a lot of things. It's great to see that they haven't changed much, and yet it's great to see how different they are, just in the short time that they've been away, you know. It's like, would you be surprised if I said that every time Paige scores in practice, she has to remind everybody, I'm in the W now. Like, you can't guard me now. Okay, great. Hey, did you guys know she's in the W? So yeah, it's just a different vibe. Just, yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I've always enjoyed our former players coming back because it's fun to remember who they were, and it's fun to see what they are now.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, what are some of the things you guys are working with right now that you want to see play out?
I would say, based on, what we've done up to this point, there's things that maybe don't show up every day in games, but they show up in practice a lot. Sometimes it shows, what some of our flaws are that we have to keep getting better at. When you look at our team, like I've really been proud of how well we take care of the ball. We've got a bunch of our players have, really, really terrific assist to turnover ratios. The ball's moving, we're making good decisions. So, I wish we could shoot more free throws, so every day, we're trying to, put more emphasis on that. Sometimes, you make a lot of shots and you don't, you think you have no weaknesses, because we make so many shots. But I always say the weakest part of every team that we've played, the weakest part of every team that I watch play, the weakest part of what we have, I think in general, basketball, the weakest part is transition defense, And if you take bad shots, then your transition defense sucks. So luckily, we don't take bad shots. If you turn the ball over a lot in the middle of the floor, your transition defense sucks, So I would say for me as a coach, anything, I think giving up transition baskets is probably every coach's nightmare and something that you're constantly working on, regardless of who the opponent is. And rebounding. And rebounding. More rebounding. More rebounding, more rebounding, more rebounding. And it's hard to get that across the players, right? Your big guys go like, we don't throw you the ball enough. All over the country, coaches have to hear that from their big guys. You don't throw us the ball enough. Well, some schools, that's all they do is throw it to the big players. But there's always that common complaint. And my thing is, every time you shoot the ball, that's a pass to a post player. Go get it. Because they're going to miss half of them. Right? Even the Hall of Famers, only half of them are going to go in. So go get them. And trying to harp on that, eventually it starts to sink in. Eventually it does.
Shooting at an incredible level right now. What are you seeing from her that you feel like has led to this run early in the season?
Just maturity and being aggressive and not allowing the last three shots affect the next three. Just a confidence level that comes with playing enough games, having the success that she had, last year. All those things, they all lead into that, Even the game the other day where she didn't shoot a high percentage, she didn't stop. She kept looking for the same shots. And to me, just keep shooting. Shoot more of them, The more that don't go in, I think the more are going to go in. Percentages eventually catch up, right? Hello, Alan.
Hi, so sorry, guys.
In,
Sorry.
No.
in that same vein, Ash has finally started to get her shots to fall over the last week or so. Where is she at this point in the season, and what have you seen from her?
Again, I just go by what kind of shots. And eventually, as I said, the percentages eventually start to, take care of themselves. And, for the most part, Ash takes the shots she needs to take, when she needs to take them. And up to this point, it's been streaky, but that's maybe kind of how she's been, during her career. She'll go through stretches where she'll make a ton, and then she'll struggle at times. So maybe it's not any different than it has been. So at some point, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, she goes on one of those streaks, where they all go in. Be a nice time to do it with what we got coming up, right?
How do you like where you're at with the rotation right now, getting to kind of play around a little bit more in some of these more lopsided games?
It's a weird thing, when you get involved in those games, because it's not about, you're caught in, do we really want to embarrass a team that's struggling to score, and we're scoring kind of easily? So our rotations get accelerated. And at the same time, do I really want to cheat some players out of playing time because they want to play? So far, I think we've done a pretty decent job. You know, after every game, we kind of go to a board and like look at the minutes and see which way are we trending. And for the most part, since game one, they've kind of stayed pretty consistent. You know, you might look at something and say, look, so and so, like Blanca. Blanca's got to get more minutes. You know, right now she's probably a little bit less than ideal. So you go, okay, well, how are we going to manipulate that? But for the most part, team-wise, I think it's been pretty good. Been pretty good. Some combinations look awesome. Some, not so much. Not so much.
Do you have an update on how Morgan's progressing and if you expect her back before the new year?
Before New Year's? Probably not, because she hasn't done anything on the court yet, so it would take getting on the court
Right.
before any of that would happen. So, no, I don't expect that.
When would you think about maybe talking with her about redshirting if it keeps progressing?
I don't know. I don't think we're at that point at all. At all. I'm still expecting her to be available.
Have you had any change with Ice at all, or is she still kind of in that day-to-day space?
No. Yeah, Ice is, again, same thing. She's not been on the court since when she had the last episode. So, yeah, there's no timetable. Right now, we're going into at least the next 2 weeks without either of them. At least the next 2 weeks, yeah.
Is it the same knee that she hurt as a freshman?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what are your thoughts on Jason Candle coming in?
I think it's great. I had a chance to meet him, and I think when you hire a coach that only knows winning when he was a player, winning as an assistant coach, and winning as a head coach, and winning at a place that's not the easiest place, in a league that's not necessarily that easy to win in, because there's a lot of really good teams in that league. And the number of pros that come out of there, given the fact that they probably aren't recruiting blue chip All-Americans. So he's kind of perfect for us, you know, to be able to get players and develop them and make them better. That, to me, my interactions with him, that comes across loud and clear that that's his proudest thing, that he can take players and develop them into NFL players. And my Eagles have a starting quarterback that's a Toledo grad, and we're very thrilled. So he's, I think he's just got the right attitude, the right outlook. And he appears to me to be a guy that has a little bit of a edge to him, a little bit of a chip on the shoulder maybe. And that, I think, is what you need here. Because people have this perception of, UConn football, because we're not in a conference, that, maybe it's not at the same level as something. But then you look at who we beat, and you look at what's happened here, and you look at the potential that's here. I think there's a lot of room for growth here. He's been in a bowl game every year that he's coached. Yeah, I think Dave Benedict hit a home run with this one.